Sawadika. Very good afternoon indeed to all distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second half of today's SEC's 20th Anniversary International Symposium, which is very much focusing on the dynamic capital market frontier. My name is Pachari Raksawong. Very delighted indeed to be here as your MC for the afternoon. Now, earlier on today in the morning, we were very honored to have the presence of His Excellency the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Kittiratt Na-Ranong presiding over the opening ceremony, delivering the opening address. We also heard from 4 other excellent speakers addressing issues related to policy. Now, for this afternoon, we will be focusing on building world-class corporations through the globalization of capital markets. Altogether, 4 very distinguished speakers, and some of them may opt to speak in Thai. We do have interpreting services for you. All you have to do is to make your way to the registration table, pick up your headsets, and then come back and join us. Now, interpreting services available from Thai into English. And 4 sessions back to back, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be a very well-informed and productive afternoon, and there will be refreshments serving outside this ballroom from 2:30 onwards at your own convenience. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the first speaker for this afternoon session. He is none other than the CEO and President of Kasikorn Bank Thailand, Kun Bantoon Lamsam. Now, Kun Bantoon, he has a BSE degree, graduating with honors in chemical engineering from Princeton University. He also has an MBA from Harvard University, and he also holds honorary doctorates in business administration from several Thai universities as well. And let's take a quick look at his social side. He has been serving as a member of the Board of Trustee of the Thai Red Cross Society, as well as being a committee member of the Sai Chai Thai Foundation, and also an advisory board member of Satsin Graduate Institute of Business Administration of Chulalongkorn University. He has received numerous awards and accolades. He was named Banker of the Year by the Money and Banking magazine in 1994, in 1999, as well as in 2009, again Banker of the Year by the Interest magazine 2 consecutive years, beginning in 1998. He's also the Star of Asia. This was awarded to him by Business Week magazine in the year 2000, and he was also Best CEO in 2003 by the Stock Exchange of Thailand, awarded to him, along with so many other awards and accolades. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a warm welcome as he makes his way to the podium on stage, Kun Bantoon Lamsam.
Ajahn Vorapol and distinguished participants of the symposium that is being organized to commemorate SEC 20th anniversary. 20 years ago, at the inception of SEC, we faced the first wave of challenges under the name of globalization. I remember very well those times there were seminars like this that were organized to help people come to terms with the perceived challenges that all countries and all people, especially Thailand, supposedly must face and must live up to. 20 years have passed, one major financial crisis in Thailand, and a couple of challenges along the way, like opening up of China, and currently the the hit theme is the ASEAN Economic Community. But they all come down to the same set of questions. Whether Thailand and its various participants in the economic system can live up to, can face, can compete with, can acquire prosperity in supposedly a wider marketplace, albeit a more competitive marketplace. It's getting boring to speak about these issues. And the answers, which actually they are non-answers, because I've given many of them, are about the same. Building the proper infrastructure. My latest concoction would be the infrastructures in the educational system, which in my opinion, Thailand has failed terribly. And even up to now, no government has shown any real passion, any real commitment, let alone showing up any real meaningful projects that would answer to this challenge. Other infrastructure being the communications and telecommunications infrastructure, Thailand has done decently, not yet the best. And another infrastructure being the legal framework, which I think Thailand lacks very poorly behind other countries. My model has always been Singapore, which makes things very clear of what can and cannot be done in what way. I think a proper legal framework is a prerequisite for a proper and balanced development of the economy. We don't seem to have that because the legislative function in Thailand does not function very well. It doesn't seem to be high on the agenda of those who are supposedly responsible for making proper laws, proper amendments to the existing laws, and they're all very conflicting and very confusing. For me, that's a real impediment, and especially in the financial service business, a lack of legal framework that is clear and clear-cut, I think, is a challenge for everybody who participates. So I do applaud Ajahn Vorapol's aspiration and initiatives to make Thailand the gateway of the capital markets of Thailand. He's not going to get there very soon. But it's worth a try. I think a proper installment of a legal system, a clear legal system, proper installment of digital gateway, in a reasonably stable economic, political environment is essential to having any hope of making Thailand a halfway center of capital markets activities. It's not bad, but you're not going to get to the world class. And it's not your task alone. I don't envy you on this, but I actually want to encourage you to give it a try. But thank you for inviting me to speak here. It's an honor. Supposedly, I should stand up here and say nice things about the SEC's aspirations and prospects of Thailand as the center of the world. I will not, on your birthday, on your 20th birthday, I'm sorry, I will not accord you that comfort. I will say something that probably will trouble you, will annoy you. But hopefully it will wake you up. I'm also a participant of the capital markets circle, more so than 20 years ago. At that time, commercial banks were not allowed that much into the capital markets activities by law. But now it's an open marketplace. And I also have to adjust to the new challenges of managing a conglomerate that cuts across all financial service licenses. And we have all the licenses except for pawnbroker. And have to deal with issues that were not really relevant to me or relevant to the bank back in 1992. It makes for an interesting career, an interesting professional challenge to coordinate all the various sub-industries in the financial service business to come up with a balanced structure and a balanced approach that can help spur the economic growth and help develop the country as a whole. Along the way, I have gained some apprehension about the downside of the financial world. Because 1997 financial crisis was a real wake-up call. It killed off many participants of the financial world. It almost killed me off also. By a stroke of luck and divine intervention, I still survive. But I can see how the financial world, how powerful it can be in making fortune and wrecking fortune. And I can see how it can be manipulated for the advantage of a few who know better how the system works. I can hear time and time again the usual arguments how things should be in the financial service business, all for the good of the country, all for good of the people. But from time to time, we have seen over the past 20 years, you see all those systems that are supposedly should be well managed have run into trouble. Asia in 1997, hamburger crisis, 2007, 2008. They're supposed to know because they were the ones who came lecture us back in 1997 how to run the banking capital markets business. Ireland, 2009, the whole banking system collapsed. Now we have Eurozone. This is beyond one banking system, the whole economic community. And now we're back to Thailand again. Are we free from all those pitfalls? I don't think so. We're not going to die the same way we did in 1997. People have several options to commit suicide. And the old ways have been shut off, namely the speculation of real estate, speculation of stocks. It doesn't happen this time around because the vehicles for doing that, being commercial banks, are not allowed to do so, thanks to the old lessons learned by the Bank of Thailand and by the board of directors of all the commercial banks. But there are other ways. I think it's always a tragedy when the banking system goes bust. It's Armageddon because it blocks off all the flow of the blood of the economic system. And everybody suffers, except for a few who got away early, as was the case back in 1997. But the marketplace is a larger marketplace. Money is more powerful than before. Bigger punch. If you bet right, you make a lot of money. And there are many more instruments in the capital markets in Thailand than before. I'm grateful that there are not too many exotic instruments in the Thai markets. I don't think we can handle this. I don't think anybody knows how to manage the risk of these derivatives, especially in its secondary, tertiary forms, which the incident of which exhibited itself back in 2007, 2008 in the subprime crisis in America. In the end, nobody knows how to manage this kind of thing. I'm glad that that kind of derivatives have been blocked off from the Thai system, partly due to foresight or just plain fear on the part of the SEC, not to allow those kind of instruments to float around. Hopefully, Bank of Thailand will be equally enlightened, not to allow the banking system to get into that kind of so-called exotic instruments that nobody really knows what they mean. But economic banking system, I can tell you, allowed to go on its own, will destroy itself. If anything that I've learned over my 30-year plus career in the financial services is that the financial service system cannot be allowed to progress without check and balance. And the real check and balances come from the regulators. In my recent speech at the Bank of Thailand, I told them that if the banking system goes bust again, there's nobody else to blame more than the Bank of Thailand itself for allowing it to go that way. Because you and you alone have the power to say no. No, this cannot be done. No, this kind of loan cannot be done. SEC also. You alone have the power to say no. No, this instrument cannot be presented to the public. And I'm sometimes troubled when I see some instruments being contemplated, even though it's a basic, straightforward debentures. Supposed to be haven't gotten a rating that is called investment grade. I don't completely trust these ratings. So when you allow these instruments to get into the public hands, you making a major commitment and make a bet that those instruments will not go bust on the public at large, especially the small investors. So I want to exhort the SEC and the Bank of Thailand, who actually should work hand in hand to make sure that the instruments that go out into the public, especially to the small buyers, the small investor, are reasonably safe. And rating alone may not be enough. You have to look, and you have to have the technical capabilities to look into the insides of those instruments being presented and answer to yourself whether you yourself would buy this kind of thing. For me, a straightforward debt instrument is bad if that company is overly leveraged. A business has two frontiers of risk, one being the business itself, that is competitive, make some products that is in a competitive environment. That's one frontier of risk. Another frontier of risk being the financial structure of the company. In my opinion, and what I've learned about risk management, you cannot take on both frontiers at the same time. The business itself is risky. The balance sheet cannot be risky. Otherwise, the risk is too much to take. And you transfer that risk through a debenture issue to the marketplace and sell them to the small investors. You transfer an acceptable risk to the small investors, the public at large. Luckily, so far, we have not had an issue that has blown up. But I think it can happen anytime. If you get closer and closer to the edge of the risk framework, the risk boundary. So this is something that I can tell you the stockbrokers, the investment bankers, which is now a part of a lot of them are part of the commercial banks conglomerate, Kasikorn Bank Group included. They will push by nature of trying to be competitive and trying to win a deal. They will push as riskier and riskier instruments onto the public for fear of not winning the deal from the customer. And they will argue this is acceptable risk, this is got good ratings and all that. But I've seen throughout my career that left to itself, the banking system will drag itself towards the edge of the cliff, taking more and more risks. And investment banking also is part of that scenario. So the banks will make increasingly riskier loans because the other bank is making increasingly riskier loans. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens step by step. Investment bankers will issue or will try to underwrite riskier instruments slowly, bit by bit, in order to win the deals from the customers. It's only natural. And there's no self-regulation, in my opinion, possible in this kind of thing. So only the regulators should be enlightened enough, to be technically capable enough to read through all this risk, and sometime along the way should have the courage to say no. It's like trying to prevent drunk driving. If you drink to a certain point, the only way to prevent drunk driving is to not get behind the wheel. You may not be allowed to drive. No other traffic rules matter. No insurance policies matter. If you have too much alcoholic content in your body, you may not drive. And that's what the regulators should be saying to the financial service industries before another collapse comes around. I hate to have to live through that one more time. I hope I retire before that happens again, so that I have to manage that kind of chaos and headaches that thank God I have done that once in my life. It's an honor which I don't need to be repeated. But that's the challenge. We all talk the flowery objectives of developing the capital markets, which spur on economic growth and then help everybody become prosperous. That's very fair. And we have to speak those aspirations also. But also the downside that we have to manage. If you want to be called, sometimes by history, that you want to be called responsible. And you want to go down into history as being responsible participants of the financial industry, be on the regular guys or being on the practitioner, the operators. So keep that in mind. SEC has the technical capability. Don't get too intoxicated by your noble visions to expand the capital markets activities without having the red button to push when you really think deep down that you need to push that button. I say that because even after the financial crisis in 1997, the past several years, and I've made this known to the Bank of Thailand, the examiners, and executives and investors and analysts that the system is now creeping slowly towards the edge. We're not there yet. It's not going to see an explosion in asset quality. But if asset quality comes up, it's too late. When it shows up on the balance sheet, it's too late. It's bad. And it's not, most of it is not fixable. You just have to take the hit. Senior member of the management of Bank of Thailand asked me how to tell whether the system is having asset quality problems. I said, don't look at the balance sheet of the banks. They always manage the NPL numbers to look good. Look into the loan contracts. You have the power to call up those loan contracts. Look into the details of how people decide to make loans. As the time goes by, you will see the deterioration of forbearance. You will see the deterioration of conservatism. You will see the deterioration of sensible cautiousness. Why is it the case? Because competition. If you don't relax the terms of lending, you lose the deal. And the capital markets are so merciless on the managers who cannot meet the 3 months target. We all live in that kind of world. I, along with everybody else in there who practice this, the financial services, have to answer to the capital markets every 3 months. Have you met the targets, and why the hell have you not? It's that kind of a world. So all the managers are under pressure, so they will do anything to make sure that they at least meet the targets, even if that entails taking more risk. And it always entails more risk. That's why all these banks in America, in Europe, they go bankrupt because they take more risk. Even the brilliant one like J.P. Morgan and all the likes of that, who said they have the best minds to manage risk, they're still under pressure to make money and take more risk. And at one point, and that point has come to pass, nobody can manage the risk. There's just too many variables, too many extensions of exposure that nobody understands in the end. So that's very obvious now that's the way the world works. So we can make the choice at what point we stop ourselves from going overboard. And financial services, more than any industry, has the biggest influence on the livelihood of the country. If the financial system goes bust, everybody goes bust, in a way. So hopefully that would not happen again in my lifetime. And I do hope to live very long, so hopefully the SEC and the Bank of Thailand will not disappoint me. Another thing that sort of gets left off in the discussion of making fortunes in the capital markets is the costs that are not accounted for. And there are costs that are not accounted for in the financial balance sheet of the companies who are selling shares in the capital markets, the costs that are not reflected in the near terms or in the long term. When the economic opportunity beckons and the chance to make money is there, the capital will flow in and does its powerful work. When there's demand in the world of so-and-so products, the capital will flow in that direction to spur the production of those products, the manufacturing of those products that will sell at a profit and make money, hopefully, for everybody along the way who participate in the system. The company that sells the products, the suppliers of raw materials, and in the financial system, the stockbrokers, the banks, the investment banks, all share in that profit. It sounds very good and sounds very uplifting to see that happens. the vision of that, image of that happening in our economic system, so everybody prospers. But is it true that all the costs have been accounted for? You take, for example, Thailand has been built to be a kitchen of the world. The food bowls of the world, because we are an agricultural system. So the capital will flow into that kind of economic activity to grow, to process agricultural products, to sell to the world at a higher added value creation, so that everybody will benefit from the farmers all the way to the producers and the transporters and the facilitators, financial facilitators especially. And financial facilitators, they make a lot of money. At least on the investment banking side, they make a lot of money. You take a stock issue to the marketplace, you make a lot of money. Stockbrokers too. But take that as a case in point. Well, the costs that are not being accounted for. We go to visit some areas in Thailand, the rural area. The case that I will bring up is just a province that I visited over the weekend, a far northern province that few people are familiar with, Man. It's next to Laos. It's nice, serene, rural community. You go up country, outside the town, you go into the mountains and all that, you notice one thing. The forests have been cut down to make room for farming. It's all illegal. Those are national forests. And if we go by the scientific assumption that national rainforests are vital to the future livelihood of the humans who live in that country, then that kind of action is actually destroying the future of the country. I look closely at what's being grown in those areas where the tall trees that used to be there have been cut down. Mountains on mountain after the mountains, I look closely. See what kind of plant is being grown there. It's corn. Now, it doesn't happen by accident. Farmers normally would grow rice. You don't make money growing rice anymore unless you get a chunk of the rice price guarantee scheme, which is scandalous in itself, but that's another issue altogether. So you do grow something that supposedly will make money, so at least you can buy motorcycle, you can buy a refrigerator, you can buy a TV set and all that. Somebody has to be buying those corns, or actually offering to buy those corns, are being planted mountains after mountains of growing area that has been made out of the national rainforest, cut down illegally. But who's going to take those farmers to task legally? They're doing because they're poor. No authorities will put those farmers in jail. They do it for their own livelihood, and they have the right to their own livelihood. But doing that because somebody is offering them an enticement that if you grow this corn, we're going to give you the seeds, probably a genetically re-engineered seed so that it's resistant to diseases and weather and all that, and has high productivity. We're going to sell you, provide you with the knowledge of how to grow the corn, sell you the fertilizers and all that. We're going to buy your produce at so-and-so price, and you look at the farmers look at this and say, oh God, this is heavenly. This is better than growing rice. So everybody benefits of this activity, except the national rainforest, which is actually the future of the country. Now, this is capital markets at work, and it works very powerfully. Intended or not, this is deforestation by proxy. Everybody feels good about this. But it happens, the deforestation happens, and it happens before our very eyes. You can go see, look, Nan may not be the only place in Thailand, but I've gone over there so I can see that with my own eyes. For me, this is deplorable tragedy, that something like this can go on unchecked. Who has jurisdiction? At least two ministries have jurisdiction. One is the National Resources, Ministry of National Resources, กระทรวงทรัพยากรธรรมชาติ Another is Ministry of Agriculture, กระทรวงเกษตรกร They report to two different political parties. They're not even structurally capable of dealing with this issue, not structurally capable of caring about this. Just let it go on. And mountains out the mountains with rainforests get cut down. The hell with the future. For me, this is, back in 1980s, we were in the heydays of mergers and acquisitions. We hear these terms, barbarian at the gates. I mean, you got to take over somebody in a hostile takeover. What we are seeing here, that I've raised this issue here and this case in point about Nan, is barbaric capital beckoning. For those journalists who want to translate into Thai, I translate for you. ทุนสามานเรียกหา barbaric capital beckoning all the participants to do things that actually destroy the future. But who cares? Everybody is making money. And how many people who are in the position of power really know about this? Or even they know, really care about this? Or even if they really care, do they know how to fix this? For me, that is a real tragedy. So everybody will be making money of this, stocks of this, whoever company that's actually perpetuates this kind of activity. And everybody involved will be making money, including the farmers who will be accessing the kind of money that in whole life will never get to. And they have the right to do that because they're poor. But who speaks for the future that has no rainforest in Thailand? And that's a real challenge, to know that something like this is happening. And it is happening. And I really thank SEC for inviting me here to be saying something that you feel totally uncomfortable with and totally offended, and I hope also challenged. I have no easy answer to this. This is something that is of national level, but I think it's good that we hear something that different from just the usual flowery, positive aspirations about the capital markets, although they also have the right to exist, but also about the other side of the issues. The costs of deforestation of national forests is not reflected on the balance sheet of any company. It's not even reflected in the personal balance sheet of that particular, those customers, those farmers. It's reflected into the bleak future of the country where this is happening. So I want to end on this uncomfortable note, and I congratulate the SEC. It's a noble organization. I always have respect for this. SEC has the team that is technically capable But I also hope that the team will have the moral courage to say no and do the right thing if it's within power you to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed to you, Kun Bantun. If you can remain with us on stage once again, that was a very delightful, very informative, and dare I say entertaining and thought-provoking speech indeed. Once again, a big round of applause to Kun Bantun Lam Sam there. And we are now going to open up the floor. If you do have any questions, further comments, perhaps queries that you would like to ask Kun Bantun, I'm sure that he is more than happy to answer any of your queries at all. Now, it's very rare indeed that we have the CEO of Kasikorn Bank here with us and the opportunity to directly ask him a question. So anybody at all here with a question, please kindly raise your hand and the staff will run to you with a microphone so that we can all hear you loud and clear. Any questions? Thank you very much. The gentleman in the middle here, if he could be passed a microphone, ขอไมโครโฟนนะคะให้สุภาพบุรุษท่านนี้ด้วยนะคะมีคำถามอยากจะถามนะคะท่านบรรทูลนะคะเดี๋ยวรบกวนไปที่ไมโครโฟนด้วยนะคะขอบพระคุณค่ะ There we go. He now has a microphone.
Excuse my rather poor English. Kun Bantun, I always have the respect of you. And you have touched on a very important topic of the country. And I can see that your heart speaks today. Even you are a component of the capitalism in Thailand. But I rather encourage you to participate somehow in the channel, proper channel, to solve the country in the government level. Have you ever had the inspiration? Because in Buddhism, you know, you have to really participate to get things done. If you don't jump from your circle out to really make it happen, it will not happen. And really, I am glad to come here today and listen to you because I vote for you. All right? Thank you.
I'm dying to do that. I have achieved over the years real political neutrality. All the political parties, they hate me. I can speak even more harsher terms, but I don't think it will be constructive. I think it's good to speak reasons in a society that I hope that still have room for reasoning. And hopefully that will wake up the public, because I don't think the politicians will be waking up. Wake up the public, and they can wake up the politicians. Everybody has his own role in life. I have mine, many roles, but being a politician is not one of them.
Thank you very much for your answer there and for the question. Do we have any more questions? Gentleman in the back here has a question. Please.
Kun Bantun, you have shed a light on a serious problem of the country. But may I ask you by the statement of JFK, ask not what you want the country or the government to do about deforestation. Ask what, as a capitalist player, you can do to stop this kind of thing. Thank you.
If I'm to be blunt, I will offend somebody. But I just make it an academic case for SEC to contemplate. What if you know for sure that this so-and-so deal, so-and-so shares actually causes deforestation by proxy? I say by proxy. No company will go out and say, farmers, you go national forest, cut down the trees and grow corn for us. Nobody will say that. Actually, they say the opposite. They said, if you grow corn in the national forest area, we're not going to buy corn from you. They have to say that, right? It sounds nice. But how do you tag those corn? How do you know where that corn comes from? From that area that is illegal, that area is not illegal. You can do that. Technically, you can do that. You use GPS tagging, but it takes so much effort. I doubt everybody cares to do this. It would be nice if somebody does this. So a way of making sure that the incentive does not get applied in the wrong way. So people who grow corn in the areas that is illegally grown, that should not be able to buy their produce. But I doubt it in practice this happens that often. What do I say, SEC, if you think deep down in your heart that this shares reflected illegal deforestation, what do you say no? No, you cannot trade shares in a Thai stock exchange. Can you say that? They'll kill you. But that's the challenge.
Thank you. One final question from the audience here. Any other delegate participants who would like to ask a question? Your final opportunity here. The gentleman towards my right. Please.
Afternoon, Kun Bantun. My English, not just poor, very, very negative English. But I have positive for your attitude to Thailand. And I'm the member of Symposium Foundation, and we think you are the one who's going to be the next man of Symposium Foundation. My question is about good governance in the Thailand, and especially in the capital market. When we talk about this, I try to talk about the conflict of interest in the capital market. You see, like 3 years ago, I stand up in a set main hall building, talking, asking Kun Korn about these kinds of things, about the SEC, the conflicts of SEC and the listed companies. That time, the chairman of SEC, he is also the director of the listed companies. And you see, Kun Korn promised me to do something, and nothing happened in about 3 years. And the courage of the SEC staff is the one who changed the culture of the organization. But you see, today, we still have the same problems, maybe, because the chairman of the SEC, he's also the director of the listed companies. I have to mention Thai Oil's Company Limited Publics. So what is your idea to change this kind of ethical or consciousness or maybe ethical moral in the capital market? What is your recommendation? Okay?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to make more enemies. The rule is there. I hope Thailand has some decent, clear rules so people can follow with good feeling that this is the right way to do. You leave room for interpretation. Thailand has many interpreters, and they always get away with some tricky semantics. For me, a rule on conflict of interest should be very clear who can do and not do in what role. This case should never, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it should never come to the point where you have to still have the debate whether this is the proper answer or not. Right? It should be very clear from the beginning that this can be done and this cannot be done. Thailand has this ability to remain ambiguous. It's a very Thai way. But if you get things a little clearer, I think it will go a long way in making the system more effective. Thank you. Thank you.
Some very challenging and strong, forceful questions right there. But that concludes a very stimulating Q&A session, and inviting up on stage Kun Vorapol Socatiyanurak, the Secretary General of the SEC Thailand, to present Kun Bantun with a token of appreciation for his presence with us today. I'm sure you all appreciated his talk extremely there. a very strong and caring individual. คุณบันทูลล่ำซำ CEO and President of Kasikorn Bank. Thank you very much indeed to both gentlemen.